hit the target right in the center. Now, meanwhile, South Korean President Moon is calling the new U.S. missile launches installation very shocking. He wants to know why his office wasn't told by defense officials about its arrival at all.
문 대통령은 정의용 안보실장으로부터
Chief Presidential Secretary Moon Young-chan saying that President Moon is briefed on such facts by National Security Council Chief and saying that it was very shocking. President Moon has called the South Korean Defense Ministry and verified that it was an authorized entry at all. He said he was surprised. Why didn't he know? Russian President Putin responding publicly today about the allegations that Russia interfered with the U.S. election. He says it's based on fiction, on the desire of those who lost the U.S. election to remedy the situation, at least somehow using anti-Russian attacks. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn says he will provide some documents to the Senate Intelligence Committee investigating, and furthermore, U.S. Congress may learn more as White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer says Jared Kushner has agreed to testify before Congress. Well, that's what he says, and he will. Okay, he'll be
on
there.
That note?
yeah. On that note, global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than, it's been a bad week for Sean. 2,600 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg. Brian?
Ed, you know, that's why it's great to introduce a clip just by saying what somebody said, and then if the clip doesn't play, you just keep on trucking. Nobody knows the difference.
I think I did that. You're right.
All right, Ed. Anyway, thanks. Excellent update. Let's get to Jason Shanker now, our first guest of this hour, President and Chief Economist at Prestige Economics. Now, my colleague, Doug Krisner, asked me to ask you about valuation, so I'm going to just assume, for the argument's sake, that you think valuations are pretty high. However, let me just counter it with, we can't really look at historical records because of interest rates being this low for what looks to be a long time, and the tax cuts that are stated policy by the president and the party that controls both houses of Congress might suggest that these valuations look pretty good by next year.
So I take a different perspective on it, and it's simply that valuations, company valuations, as we look, we normally think of public companies in terms solely of market cap, right? Number of shares, price of shares, boom, we got a number. But the truth is that most equity analysts and all private company valuations, almost all of them, are predicated on discounted cash flow models, right? You look at expected future cash flows, you discount them, blah, 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 and there's a plug in the model, and that's the corporate tax rate. And what's happened is that if the corporate tax rate goes down, the valuation of every single company goes up. And private company valuators, and some on the public side, have already begun plugging in lower corporate tax rates to value companies. This is what's been driving this equity market higher in the U.S. It's not a reflation trade, right? Because we don't see inflation, right? It's a revaluation trade.
So I'm assuming that you say then that these companies may not be overvalued, that they're valued high for a reason.
They're valued high for a reason, and that reason is predicated on corporate tax cuts. So if the tax cuts come, then there's more upside here, right? Because you probably don't have the full, if you get to that 15% magic number, there might be more upside. But if you don't, there's a lot of downside.
Okay, Jason, that sets us up for, maybe you take some money off the table right now until you see a little bit of the proof of the pudding. We'll continue our discussion with Jason Shanker, President and Chief Economist at Prestige Economics. Doug Krisner will update markets next. This is Bloomberg.